Welcome to Power Up, the podcast that uncovers the unique challenges women leaders face today. Join your hosts, Nat and Kristen, as we dive into the tough topics and provide actionable insights you can apply right now. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes.
Kristen, are we in a courage crisis?
Well, according to Brené Brown, we are. And she says that she speaks to like hundreds of CEOs, travels in amazing circles. I didn't know a lot about her. Now, I'd be curious if you listened to her, but I've never really caught on to all the stuff she was doing. Apparently, viral TEDx talk is what got her to her status, of which she stands on today. But she talks about speaking to all these CEOs and that they say a lack of courage is their biggest hurdle, barrier, issue, not skills, not resources, but courage. So people not having hard conversations, avoiding giving feedback, avoiding accountability, staying silent. Thoughts first on Brené Brown and then on this?
I'm probably in a similar boat to you. I think she is famous. The TED talk she did was on radical candor. No, she wasn't radical candor, was she? She was something else. We will Google it.
Vulnerability. I think it's
Vulnerability.
vulnerability, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually did listen to her recently on another podcast and talking a bit about how a lot of her original content has been misconstrued and lumped in with self-help and all sorts of stuff. And now she's really not changed her thinking, but really uh, s- being more specific with her thinking and talking more about things like courage, which I think is really cool. It's funny because we obviously on a two-woman crusade around the chronic cancellation culture that we exist in, which falls under this courage thing, not fronting up, not being accountable to letting people down, not being, to stopping a commitment, all of that sort of stuff. But in a great twist of events in the last 2 weeks, I've had 3 or 4 different people RSVP to events and say, oh, I actually can't make it, follow up. We've even had someone to an event we're not organizing get in touch through our live chat today and just say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I cannot make it tonight. And I just thought, oh, are we having an impact? Are we having an impact on courage? Because
I think
and on this cancellation, because it does feel like people are starting to front up.
I think we're scaring everyone. Someone in my peer group said, I had to come tonight because I'm scared what you'll do if I don't." But yeah, so we manage from a place of fear, no. But I think there is a courage crisis, and I thought it would be really interesting your thoughts as to why before we jump into one aspect of that, which is hard conversations and having them. But I was wondering, no doubt there'll be a bunch of them, but I was wondering if it's generational shifts and just how all the different generations are now in a melting pot of an organization, and each one has a different communication style and different set of values and maybe different set of acceptable behaviors. Is it just really complex because of generational shifts?
I don't know. I feel like every generation says that the next one or the one before is problematic. So I don't know if it's generational, but I think it's cultural. And I think there's a couple of things that, in my opinion, absolutely unscientific opinion, contribute to it. I think one is technology, and you've mentioned this before, that we don't have to front up anymore. Like it's really easy to ghost someone. It's really easy to flick out a quick text instead of having to stand face to face. Because we have technology, it's really easy to change plans because you're not back in even when I was growing up. You couldn't get in touch with someone to change your plans. You just had to turn up when you said you were going to turn up. So I think technology has these unintended consequences, and I think they really appeal. Some of those actions really appeal to our human desire to minimize discomfort, which leads me to the second cause, in my opinion, which is minimizing discomfort. And we sometimes confuse conflict and discomfort because I feel uncomfortable giving someone feedback or having a hard conversation. My brain interprets it as conflict, and I say I'm conflict avoidant or I hate conflict and give myself permission to get out of having the sorts of conversations and the sorts of situations that actually reduce conflict because you're not building resentment, you're not mismatched expectations, you're not letting people down, you're actually fronting up and being accountable. But because we lump it all under conflict to hide our discomfort, it makes it a lot easier to avoid that stuff. Those are my sort of thoughts on it. What about you?
Well, I was just looking at busy culture because in addition to technology, we celebrate being busy and productive now. And I just wonder, as a result of everything being out in the open, of being always on and busy and productive and successful, that we do overcommit. And as a result, have to behave in this way where we just like, we ghost or we avoid things and we just, yeah, I don't know. I was just wondering
I
about that.
mean,
It turns
you
out
could
busy
reverse it and say
culture.
busyness has become another great excuse for not really just doing less well. By overloading ourselves to the point that we can't do things well, we then go, "Oh, it's just because 'cause I'm so busy." Whereas, actually, if you are going to invest in a team member, or if you're going to say yes to a job, like, that is your top priority, and maybe it is worth us adding less stuff to our calendars and less busy work and really focusing on doing the things that we should be doing, the hard stuff,
Yeah.
do it better.
Yeah. Yeah, really interesting. Well, let's jump into one part of us reclaiming our courage, and that is in hard conversations. I think women, we obviously focused very much on women. They have additional barriers when it comes to courageousness and possibly hard conversations. Like, we are socialized to be nice and avoid conflict. Fear of being labeled difficult or emotional. I used to get that one a lot when there was something I was upset about. I remember my dad saying immediately, "Stop being so emotional." That's just stuff that would come. And then, of course, there's this whole imposter phenomenon meets perfectionism as well, like this navigating through conversations and workplaces and our lives, trying to minimize difficult and conversations and conflict. But yeah, let's jump into them.
Okay, so having a hard conversation. Well, I think talking about emotions, I feel like that's a really good place to start, is that it is so easy, and I imagine our brains are wired to do this, to take feedback or critiques of our ideas or work or anything that's actually not us personally. Like, if I deliver an essay or a pitch and it's not, if you gave me feedback on it, which we, by the way, have gotten so good at that, I don't take this in this way at all. But if you're new to that, you take it personally. They think I'm no good. They think I'm not paying enough attention, and turn it into this real personal attack almost, and hear it as a personal attack. So I think in the pre-work of having a hard conversation is to get really clear that this is not about people and personalities. This is about robustly critiquing and debating ideas or work or things that has nothing to do with who you are and your identity, but to do with creating better outcomes, better aligned expectations, and really build stronger relationships. Like, come at it from that rather than really like, this is about me and it's someone doesn't like me or some doesn't like who I am or I'm not good enough. Like, get out of that mindset, and really try and practice that before you have these hard conversations, because it is so much easier to have them if you are both able to talk about the thing rather than feel like you're really hurting someone's feelings.
I feel like, for everyone listening, they've got now the benefit of actually getting into that mindset and viewing feedback as a gift and trying to separate it from our value, our worth, our whatever, um, and our deliverables, and just see it as not, I suppose, connected personally to us, and that it is a piece of work. It is something that can always be improved. So changing mindset, and I
And the
think that
goal is to improve it. Like, we
yeah,
shouldn't
that's
expect
right.
it to be perfect on the
But
first draft.
but what I think organizations and managers and people leaders fail at is creating an environment where that is known, where the culture is shared, that this is how we will deliver feedback, but even training, because I think a lot of people do make it personal and they don't mean to, but the way that feedback is worded is can be so easily misconstrued. There are actually ways of delivering it so that you can take the personal out of it. So I think the onus? The onus is on the organization, the people leader, the manager to really embed feedback as part of the culture, to say this is good feedback, this is bad feedback, to role model it, and to actually start to train people and create cultures of that. Any people leaders listening, that just feels like such an obvious as well.
Yeah, and I think hard conversations, of course, aren't limited to feedback. So even a note I'd written down is sometimes hard conversations, and I've seen this happen countless times in meetings where someone suggests something and everyone goes, great, 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 and then walk out going, oh, I hate that idea, or I'm not on board at all. And that's another hard conversation. That is a hard conversation because you have avoided actually confronting the thing and sharing your opinion in the moment. So my note was start small, and my example recently, and I don't know how this relates, but it totally does relate in my brain, is if you ever say to people, "Oh, let's go to a dance class," or "Let's go out dancing," their first response is almost always, "Oh, I'm no good at dancing." And I'm always like, "Sorry, I didn't ask if we were gonna win an award. I was asking if we wanted to go and boogie." I don't care if you're good at it. Like, this was not a pre-criteria for going out onto a dance floor. And it struck me that that is probably a mindset that we take into hard conversations too. Like, I am worried, I'm going in worried about not being good enough, or worried about being sounding silly, or no one agreeing with me, and so we avoid it. And I think it's probably the same underlying thing. So my note was start small, and if you are in a conversation or in a meeting where you disagree with an idea or disagree with an opinion, say so in the moment. And you can say so in a professional, polite way that, again, is not personal. But even if it's something really small, like what is the lunch location we go to, start to build a habit over of being okay, not just passively following along, even if you disagree. Actually share your opinion. And again, it's sort of like the feedback thing or the first draft. Recognize that the first opinion, the first idea tabled is expected to be worked on and improved. And your input is incredibly valuable in that, even if it feels a bit hard to start.
Yeah, and I love that it's the practice that's gonna flex this muscle for having perhaps those bigger conversations, and when I think about prepping for bigger conversations, prep is, like, the key word, and I think there's some really important things we can do before having the, heat of the moment, emotional, we've all been there with relationships where it's like, "You always," and "You never," and so taking those rules, but I wonder if in lies the prep and just writing a few notes about, first of all, getting clear on separating facts from fiction, like again going, and we've said this quite a bit, like what are the knowns, and then what are the stories that we're telling ourselves. So actually just stick to the what are the knowns, and that could even be how I feel. That's a known, how something is making you feel, or the thoughts you have towards something. The second is getting really curious, and actually, and we talk about this, like, what is it like to be in that other person's world right now, and having a bit of empathy. Is that person really crunched at the moment, and therefore, might have said something or done something that wasn't all that helpful, but what's going on for them right now in their world?
Yeah, I really like that. And you'd written an example of someone being interrupted and interpreting that as not being respected. And I think there are a million examples of this, that someone's behavior, we just immediately jump to interpreting it as, again, something personal or something deliberate, whereas 9 times out of 10, it is they have totally got a blind spot and didn't realize. They got super excited about something and jumped in and didn't realize how it made you feel. So going in with that idea of it's just the action that you don't actually know anything else, you don't know their intention, you don't know their motivation. What you do know, though, is anytime you go into a hard conversation is the outcome, or you should know the outcome you want to achieve. And in my opinion, that should always be positive. It should be either, I want to get to a better final solution for whatever it is we're talking about. I want to get to a better output if we're putting something out. I want to build a stronger relationship with you where we understand each other and can work together because I really respect you. And if you start by going, okay, this is the outcome I want to get out of this, you're going to go in with quite different language and body language and vibes than you will if you come out going, I want to tell them that they really hurt me. because that's going to lead to you coming intense and probably accusatory. And if you actually go, great, the outcome I want to achieve is I want this piece of work to be better. The problem I'm dealing with at the moment is that every time I start a piece of work and hand it off to my manager for review, it comes back covered in red marks and things crossed out, and it makes me feel like there's no point even starting it. Great. So the outcome I want to get to is how do we do better feedback or reviews of my work to make sure that we get where we want to go, and think about how you might start that differently.
I love that. I feel like we need our own TEDx talk. I mean, as an aside, I think we do. I don't know what we'd speak on, but I think that, but like, let's get one first of all. And but I love the because this is like positive intent, and I love the positivity. People that come across PowerSuit and become members, and when we speak to organizations who are supporting their women on PowerSuit, it's because we take a positive and pragmatic approach to things. Like there's not an enemy, there's not a they're wrong and you're right, and we're just boosting up and creating more division as a result. Like we actually go, what are the things that you can control? How do you approach it with positive intent? And I love that positive outcome. I think that's so critical. What is the positive outcome? You are trying to do, X what, and then have that filter go through. Is that actually the outcome that everybody wants? Is it a win-win? If that's the case, perfect prep. I love that. Amazing. What TEDx talk are we gonna do?
Gosh, there's so many.
What would be like an iconic one that we could do? I don't know, which is why I'm asking. I don't
I would have to do it at the moment. I mean, it would probably change every week, but I
Yeah.
feel like at the moment, I feel like our pet peeve is still cancelling. So even if everyone is doing a great job now of getting in touch, I feel like the rest of the world needs to hear it.
Okay. I'm
But
gonna go I'm gonna
we will change. We will change. Watch this space. We might do a series.
No, I like that. I'm gonna go search. I'm just gonna go search who will have us on their stage. No, so that's great. Okay, and then the last practice and prep as part of, going into hard conversation is to practice the opening line literally out loud. And it could be things like, "I've noticed," or "I'm noticing," as opposed to remember I was, mocking, places we've all been before. "You always," or "you never," and so things like "I'm noticing," or "I'm curious." I think those are really, what do they call it? Opening, conversation lines and starters, and literally practice that sentence before you go into the convo.
Yes, I completely agree. And we actually had this example this morning. We were thinking about conversation starters for weak ties, people you might meet on the bus or at the coffee line or on the sports field. And it's all fine and good to say, ask an open question, but actually getting down to the what is that question or what is the line is critical. Otherwise, you're going to turn up in the moment and be like, ugh. Uh, I also would suggest role playing that if you are not used to having a hard conversation, having someone else stand in for the person you're having with it, and get them to give you some feedback as well. All of it helps. I also would say the you don't have to have it if you are new to hard conversations. Lead up with a message will not go astray. Hey, I'd love to chat to you about X. Even if you raise the thing that happened, like hey, I would love to have a chat to you because I noticed in the last meeting, again, don't use blamey language. We were interrupting each other a lot, or you got really excited about something and I didn't quite get my point through. I'd love to have a chat about how we can better structure the next meeting to make sure that we cover off all the points while also not having to stay super structured or such like. And then that gives the person a minute to think through what how they might respond, probably work through their own defenses, and then come back to you and have a really productive conversation. So wouldn't be afraid to use that. Would you do that? I'd do that.
Yeah, I think so. I know that I think impact and an example is really important. So I love how you gave an example, and I think impact is probably important to add in there, so that people realize what that how that person's felt or what it has done. And I don't think that needs to drag it down and be negative, but it kind of that could be a real aha light bulb moment for people that go, oh, when I cut people off. Um, I don't know, make them more reluctant for speaking up in future meetings, or perhaps, diminish their expertise and make them feel, whatever. I think that's actually okay to be honest about the impact it had on you. It doesn't mean that that person intended to do so, but I think that is kind of part of a good apology.
Yeah, well, and also I think the other thing is firstly, they may not even be aware they've done it because that might be how they communicate. But secondly, I always think it's like boundaries. It's really important to not go in with a I want you to change. You are in the wrong and you need to change. So that's why I was quite specific with that example to say, how do we have meetings that do X and Y? Because I think you may need to change a bit too. Like you may wait too long to be called upon or whatever it might be. Being open to like the outcome we want is that everyone gets heard in the meeting. We get all the points across that need to be got across. We're not sort of half finishing things and moving on. We're all should be happy to change to make that happen. And I think, again, if you approach these hard conversations with that curiosity and comfort, also recognizing you might have a role to play, even if you don't, again, the vibe will be so much more positive, so much more working together and will help with someone else's defenses as well. So I think also if you're going to have a hard conversation, go into it with the expectation that you might need to change some stuff as well.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and that's part of, yeah, that's absolutely fair. The one thing I would advise people not to do, though, is go in with an apologetic tone or hedging stuff, like, assuming that, "I know this isn't probably what you meant," or, "Oh, sorry, do you mind if I just share?" I think anything like that diminishes, something that's probably small, because again, our preference is that people just nip this stuff in the bud, eh? Like, you're just doing
Yeah, and it's just
short,
very
sharp pieces of
practical.
feedback. Exactly. So, if you go in with an apologetic or kind of hedging, you're automatically diminishing what is a very mature conversation. Like, don't soften it, just be direct, and,
About the thing, not the
yeah,
person. If you are
yeah.
direct about the thing, great. Like, there's really little you can do in response to that other than go, "Oh, yeah,
Um,
this thing, this third party." I always like to think of these things as a third party. It's not you, it's not me, it's this other thing, maybe this dynamic we've created together or this thing that
mm.
happens. Let's both be on the same team tackling that thing is a
Yep.
really nice way to do it.
Yeah, yeah, and agreeing to final steps. I suppose agreeing to, asking their perspective, so getting curious in there about, like, "What do I'm curious about, like, what was your intention?" Or, "What did you mean?" Or, "What should we blah de blah, how do you think we should move forward?" Getting their perspective, and agreeing to next steps, pretty, typical stuff, like, I think that's probably short, sharp. When we say it, it doesn't feel as hard as it sometimes feels, does it? But sometimes just
Yeah.
a really quick template makes it easy.
I was actually thinking that I was just pausing to think about some other examples of hard conversations. So we've sort of done the feedback one. The other ones that I've noticed a little bit more recently is like the disagree. So I think if we apply that as well to how might we have a more robust conversation, or even if it's not disagree, if it's I don't understand something, I have a question to ask, that kind of conversation. But the final one is also someone else has raised a hard conversation with you, which of course the way you react to that is equally important. So it could be feedback they're giving you, but also the one that I have been really spreading far and wide recently is we are through going through massive change and upheaval. There's a lot of redundancies and restructures and a lot of bad news coming out of companies. So often someone will have to have plucked up the courage and say, hey, we are restructuring this team, or we have gone through a big strategy pivot, and this program of work that we're on is no longer going ahead, whatever it might be. Having that same approach of, I am here to get to a positive outcome. I'm on the same team as you. This is a third party thing. It's not you or me. They're not the enemy. Management isn't shutting things down. And coming at having your first response to those conversations planned, and the example that I heard, which I just loved, was come at it from a, okay, I'm on board. I want to let you know I am here to help the company or organization succeed and help everyone get through this well. That is my first response. I might come back to you in the coming weeks because I know this is going to be hard with some other thoughts, but by starting that conversation, by really emphasizing, I am a positive contributor to this change and I am here is such a nice, it will immediately again put you on side, make you someone who is a supporter and a helper and a hugely valuable teammate. Whereas if your first reaction is, oh gosh, what about me? What about this? Which I know you'll be feeling in your head. You can go away and think about that and come back when you've had a bit of a chance to process and have some really good language around it. But just starting going, okay, we're in it together. I'm going to go away and think about this and come back to you is such a nice way to tackle change happening to you or hard conversations landing in your lap.
Yeah, great. Practice courage. Fabulous. I thought it would be interesting to just end, well, very quickly on picking a conversation that you have been avoiding. Get really clear on what would a great outcome look. What is the thing, the third person thing? I like how you put that. Practice your opening. Go ahead. Get really curious through that conversation. Empathetic, and then agree to kind of next steps. But sometimes it honestly it'll be short, sharp, and clear the air because the convo you're avoiding is probably the one that needs to happen most. So here's our permission to you to go and have a hard conversation this week if there's one you've been avoiding. And if not, as Nat said, just practice small things like giving your perspective, giving your feedback, being courageous to take up a bit more space and share your thoughts as we go.
Go out dancing, even if you're not good.
I love it. Thanks, everyone. Check out powersuit.com and we will check you next time. Bye.